Hi, and a very warm welcome to you guys. Early morning here, so I'm trying not to be too loud so I don't wake up everybody. As promised, I was going to go through the latest Earth Alpha at a glance anomalies that are taking place. And, as usual, just want to say a big thanks to Sarah Lynn, Robert Watkins, and by the way, Rob, thanks for the emails you've been sending me recently. Very interesting stuff. And definitely on topic of what I'm in line with, talking about on this channel. So thanks for that information. Janie, Sherry, and of course Miller City Farms. Huge thanks there, and Rosina. Okay, on with the report. I'll keep it short and sweet for us. So starting off with the atmospheric CO2 at 427 parts per million, slightly up on what it is, but overall, after looking after the last 12 months, I think you'll agree with me. And we have the historical data, to go back on. You'll agree that over the last 12 months of looking at the data, we can see that the CO2 is showing a pattern of reducing. Yet for some reason, no one in the mainstream media will cover that, and we all know why that is. It's because, with the blaming of CO2 on global warming, there's a lot of money to be made, and we're talking trillions worldwide. We know who are at the heart of making this money. It's the United Nations. I just want to talk about energy costs at the end of this as well, because I think it's related, so we will talk about that shortly. But let's get on with the atmospheric oxygen at 0.51%, so or 51%. There's the latest latitude and longitude of the magnetic North Pole. We'll be doing that again in another 6 days. We've got the radiation background count, just slightly less of what it was the last time we done an Earth Alpha at a glance. We have 26 earthquakes, which is the same number as what it was almost a month ago when we done the last Earth Alpha at a glance. Largest earthquake in magnitude over the last 24 hours is 5.4, Northern Colombia. The muons here in the UK are at 573 per metre per square hour, and in Canada we've got the muons at 947 per square metre per hour. And also I just want to quickly mention Kendall. I've got the data. Later on I'll be updating Canada's magnetometer readings for the last week or two there, so big thanks there. It's one of our superstars that's got some of our equipment there in Canada. The latest sunspot numbers at 10, just slightly what it was, down on what it was over the last few days. If you've been following that over at SolarHam, got a great channel. They're trying to raise a few bucks to keep doing what they do, so that is well worth a mention. The geomagnetic field's quiet and solar x-rays are normal, and of course the jet streams are unstable. A little bit later on in the year, we're going to be looking at the regions where we take a mean reading to work out the latest magnetosphere data, to give us a sum in microteslas overall. But it's a mean reading, and that means that we're taking it from Canada, other locations around the world, and then we do a mean reading on that, and then give you the latest figures of the magnetosphere stream. So we're doing that later on in the year. Just want to make sure that I can get as many of our superstars to send the data on the magnetometers for that region or their region, and then we can do that and we can put it on a map for you guys so you can see. Main thing here is, guys, is that we're over on our website. I mean, that is generally all the anomalies that we cover. We're over here at our website. We have 20,000 people view this every week, and it is largely undonated by most people. I mean, you've heard just how many people I've mentioned today over the last couple of days that have made a donation to the the ongoing research and the covering of these events for you guys. When we look at Earth Alpha at a glance, this is covering a lot of anomalies and bringing all that data to you, and more importantly than that, it's archived, so you can go back, you can chart whatever you want, whatever anomaly out of the ones that we look at. So if you want to look at the atmospheric CO2, you can go back over in the archive, make an Excel chart, print it off, and you can have a look at the trend over that period of time. Another important thing is we've been covering now Earth Alpha at a glance for a good few years, so there's plenty of data there in the archive for you, and it's all accessible to public, like I say, largely free of charge. But you know what, it does require a few people now and then to step up and chip in a few bucks. As I mentioned in the last video, we had to pay our website host provider a chunk of change so that we could keep uploading more data, so we could have a little bit more storage space on our website, because of the archives are growing. And that's why a lot of websites don't put their archives up, because of the amount of data that it would require. So somewhere, we've got our own hard drive, which is accessible to anyone that's interested and that knows that we cover these things. But another thing to mention is that we're a one-stop shop for all these anomalies. That we're covering CO2, and we cover it sometimes at resolution of every 2 weeks or every week. And you can check, if you're worried about the amount of volcanoes that are in eruption, straight away on this website very quickly, and compare it with the archive data. Using this data can be very valuable to people that are looking for information on particular anomalies. We do the work for you guys on the magnetic North Pole migration, because we've got the only piece of equipment in the world that is recording this at a resolution of every 3 seconds. So as I've been doing this video, we've probably had another 25, 30, maybe 50 readings of the latest magnetic North Pole recorded down on an SD card, which we break out now twice a month for you guys, because of the increase in activity that we've been noting with it. So it's a very valuable website, but we have had to cut down some of the hours that we put in, because we have had, due to the circumstances of global slowdown, economic growth and things like that affecting people, like here in the UK, you can only buy 2 tomatoes at a time, you can only buy 1 box of eggs at a time. It's getting ridiculous. And what they're trying to do is, because we're going to get onto it now, is because the energy costs have gone up. I want to tell you again what the government done in this country. I know I'm sidetracking, but I think this is important for you to understand. What our government has done in this country, and what governments have done in all the other countries, is they've buddied up with the energy companies, and they have utilised taxpayers' money to increase profits of energy companies. This is absolutely fraud, and they should be all locked up for it. But you know what, the law works now in their favour, that it doesn't work in our favour, and because we're in such short numbers, nobody's going to do anything about it. But listen to this, the governments here in the UK are sending out free vouchers for people to purchase electricity or gas over these months of the winter period. And that means that taxpayers' money is going to the energy company bosses and their shareholders. And I wouldn't be surprised if we dug in a little deeper, we would find that the people in government had shares in these energy companies somewhere down the line, if not directly. So that there is definitely a conflict of interest here going unchecked, and nobody seems to be investigating it, because people should be put in jail for what they're doing, because this has killed people. This is the state of corruption that we face in this world. So just to go over that again, the government are paying the people that are claiming they can't afford their energy bills, and they're doing it in giving them vouchers. So they're giving taxpayers' money to the people that say that they can't afford it, which is almost a blanket cover for the 65 million people in this country. And that money is going back to the energy companies' pockets. And at the same time, we see them announcing record-breaking profits over the last year. So we know what's happening. They are funding these energy companies, with taxpayers' money now. And in doing that, it is keeping the stock markets up on the value of these companies, so that the shareholders, who are likely linked to the ones that made the policy decisions to give out the vouchers in the first place, that money is going back into their pockets. This is the sort of thing that we cover here for you guys. That's why we're seeing now these restrictions on food in the UK. 2 tomatoes, 1 box of eggs, and only allowed 2 cucumbers. Well, let me tell you what this will do. I'll get back on point now. Through rationing the food, those people that have got larger families that would buy normally 2 or 3 boxes of eggs a week in their grocery shopping, well, they're having to go back now to the shop again, and they're very likely doing it in a car, which means that they're using twice now the amount of fuel, which is meaning that twice the amount of CO2, if it is a big problem like the government claim, right? Then the inefficiency of this and the pollution of this is increased twice-fold now because of that reason alone. And that this is what we see, U-turns, failing policies, them having double standards on one breath. You're telling me there's not one scientist that has mentioned this to the government? What you've just done here is, by putting up the energy costs, you've stopped the shops being able to produce the quantities that they usually do, and that means that people now have had to face restrictions. And in turn, they're going back to the shop more than once to get the groceries. So that means you've increased CO2 output by the use of that vehicle. That's amazing. And it doesn't matter if they use an electric vehicle, because it's got to be charged up anyhow. So whatever usage is coming out the storage capacity of that battery. So either way, you look at this, what they've done is doubled the CO2 being produced in this region, in this incident, and at the same time paid shareholders with government taxpayers' money bonuses and extra money on the pretext that we need to do this as a government because people can't afford their energy costs. So there's a funnel for taxpayers' money to go straight out the door. This is what we face. This is the corruption that we face in this country. And a lot of people that seem simple won't be able to work this out because they just simply don't have the benefit of the time to sit down and think to themselves, why would the governments do this? Why would they use taxpayers' money to fund energy companies? And obviously, if they was going to do that, they'd need a damn good reason to do so. And of course, if people are going to freeze to death in their homes, if people are going to starve to death, then that is more than a good enough reason, especially if it's on a large scale. And that's exactly what's happened. If you're in government these days, all you need is a good reason to shed out taxpayers' money in a certain direction. I'll give you another one. I'm not stupid. I do have the capacity to think about these things and think long and hard. I'll tell you another way they can lose money is by telling the public around the world, those that are supporting the Ukraine soldiers, that they are sending more weapons than what they actually are. Who's auditing this? What, you think the military are going to audit themselves, or the government are going to audit themselves? What they're going to say is this is old stock and surplus, but where does that money go? So the arms dealers, the energy giants, and all the big blue chip companies are involved now clearly in loopholes in the law, funneling out trillions of our taxpayers' money into the hands of these greedy pigs at the trough. End of story. I don't need to say any more because I think some of you guys, realise this. So that's the Earth Elf at a glance. I'm sorry I went off on a tangent there, but it's important that we all understand the reasons for their actions. CO2 causing global warming is just alarmism. It's bad science, and it's going uncorrected at the moment. And those that stand there in line to defend the truth are getting persecuted. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the Felt at a Glance today here at the Mavstar Observatory, and I want to thank those people that support us. You know, it's really important that we keep informing people. One day we might stand in larger numbers and be able to do something about it. You know, I can only hope that that is the case. So what I usually do, you take care of your loved ones. Have an amazing day. As always, bye for now.